Good evening. If you remember, I got one of these at Harbor Freight, brought it home, and guess what? It broke. So I went and got another one. There's not that much to these. Got an accessory pack. What's funny is I went to the store and I actually pulled this one out of the box to be sure it was in good shape before I bought it. And made sure this piece wasn't broke, because that was the piece that was broke on the other one. And I checked the display, and the display was broke in the exact same way. And I told them about it, and they just didn't seem like they cared. Thought that was odd. And one thing I do like about a lot of Harbor Freight products is they put the recycle number on the bags. So this is an 04, so you can recycle this. It's HPDE 2 and 4 can be recycled fairly easily. Okay, so this is a weak point. That's always going to be a weak point. That's unfortunate, but just the way it is. Symptom of the cheap metal they use. Now, what tools do they give you? Okay, so they give you 2 Allen keys, very long reach, like that. 2 extra blades. I'm sure they're not great quality blades, but they're blades. So it has a speed control, on off with the safety, dust collection. Hey, good evening. I filmed taking this apart and putting it back together, and somehow the video got lost, so I'm going to do it again. But when I was first testing it, I found rust on the spindle of the motor, and I wanted to take care of that, so I had to take it almost all the way apart, and it's actually educational to do that. So let's go. And I got my magnetic parts holder here to put all the pieces in. So here's the accessories cover. And the piece that had rust on it is this piece right here. But let's go ahead and take it apart. Yes, it's unplugged. You gotta take all the screws out of the side. Then you've got to take these 4 bolts off. You got to take this back mount off. Take the front plate off. They did not give you the connector for that one. Try a 4.5. And we have a winner. Also need to take this knob off. This back thing is a lot harder, and this is where these long reach Allen wrenches come in handy. There we go. That might make it a little easier, maybe. There's some sawdust in here because I used it to demo in the original video that it was ruined. But when I looked down in here, there was rust on this motor. I didn't want that to stay, so I sanded it off real good, put some gloss spray paint on it, and now you can't even tell it was there, but it was there. It's kind of unusual to see rust on something like this, because Harbor Freight normally puts a coat of machine oil on everything. Just so happened it must not have been on that. And this is cast iron, so this is a nice heavy base. And you can't get the motor off. There's just 4 screws here. There's this mounting plate here that has 2 additional screws right here. But other than that, that's the base. As you can see, there's not a whole lot to this. I'm going to take this table off. You definitely want to keep the 2 washers, one on each side of that spring, together. So when you put it back together, you've got all the pieces. Okay, very disappointed in the table. It feels like stamped steel. And it has these surface imperfections. You can see that it's almost like rust under there, and some splitting or cracking in this. But you can see the raised bubbles. That has to be redone. Okay, the way this works is there's 2 pins, and this rotates on the pins. Now, when I took this apart, there was no grease in this at all. So I added grease to both sides of the pin, and then this mounts on here, and this goes up and down. became a lot less noisy once I put that grease on it. The way this goes back together is kind of weird. I had to figure this out at first. If you take this piece and put here, this is a clip joining two bolts together, and that slides in this side of that. And then there's a second one that slides inside of that. Those go down in these holes, and that's what holds it on. So it's kind of a trick to get it together. What I found is to put it like this, and I've leaned that over a little bit, and that raises that up a tiny bit. So now I can take the two slots here and put back in, and you can see where I've added that grease. I didn't go overboard. I can take it apart later and do it again if it needs it. So I'll slide this on the two rotating pins as I put these two clips in place. That's why I said it's a bit awkward to get together, because you won't be doing it that often. There you go. First time's a little different, but after that it kind of goes easier. So now you want to hold this in place, turn it over, put the nuts back on. Kind of like the chicken and the egg. Do I put these screws to hold it together up here first, or do I put that on first? It seems to be going pretty good. I notice these don't line up perfectly, but that's okay. When you put the screws in, they will. So this doesn't line up perfect right here, but the rest of it lines up. So there must be some stress on one of these that deforms it. But if you put the screw in, that'll take care of it. Hold them in place while you do it. It's all lined up now. Okay, I took this motor arm off, and when I did that, a little spacer came out. So I need to put that spacer back in there and get ready to put this back on. But on this, the bolt goes through that spacer, and that probably uses the 3 that came with it. It needs to go all the way through and then tighten up. This is the little air thing. It acts as a bellows, and as the arm goes up and down, it works this to press some air. So put this in between, and it has like a collar that goes up through it. Looks pretty good, and you can see it hitting that bellows type thing. This goes on top of it, like down in. This goes right like this, up through here, and this thumb wheel will hold that on. Now there's a flat side that goes toward this. I'm going to put it all the way up for now. And when the air function is working, the air blows out of here and blows away your sawdust. We'll see how good that actually works. Okay, so we're almost there. We've got to get that table back on. In my opinion, the table is the biggest pain because there's no room to work. There's a slot that this piece goes in. I'll go ahead and put the knob on because it'll help me steady this while I put it together. If you turn this way, you might get a little better access into these. If you're wondering how far to tighten that, the best thing to do is to put the front on. I'm going to get it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to do that. We need to check 90 degrees. But I've got everything here together. I'm going to go ahead and put the cover on. I think it would have been better if they'd attached this with knobs. It would have been easier to get on and off. And this is something you want to take on and off quite a bit, simply because of the dust. I don't want to tighten any of these until I get all 3 on, then I can tighten it. So I can tighten it. And these are going to come on and off, I'll say occasionally, because you're going to have to clean it out every once in a while. Don't over torque them because you'll strip them and then you won't be able to get them off as easy. Okay, so that's the basic construction. Now this will go on different ways depending on how your work is. And you should actually put the blade on first. And on the blade, the points go down because it cuts on the downstroke on these blades. So I hook the bottom, take the tension off of the arm, hook from the bottom, hook the top, and then tighten. You want some deflection, but not a whole lot. Now, one thing about this power switch is it's side to side. Up and down is just more natural to me, maybe not to everybody, but to me. And there's oxidation on that screw right there. That's a sign that it has been exposed to water at some point, if the rust inside wasn't enough. So I'll put this on, and there's 4 indentations. You saw it's easier for me to pop it from underneath. There's 4 indentations, and I've got to line those up some way. So I can put this on, and I can put those spaces other places if it's going to help support my wood better. So this goes up and down, and you put this against the wood, and that's supposed to blow air. Let's see if it blows any air. I'm guessing it does blow some air. There is a little arrow that when this is at 90 degrees, this should say 0. And I lined that up before. I got this as close to 90 degrees as to the blade as I could, and then I adjusted that. So I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And there's dust collection. Okay, so I had previously cut this. I want to cut another to demonstrate. I'm going to drop this on it. If you don't use this, your wood can fly up and down a lot. There's high speed. Let's go a little lower. Okay, at the lower speed, I was able to bog it down, but I wasn't using it right. I was just doing that to hurry through it. When you're on that low speed, you actually want to go very slow. Odds are you're following a line, and you want to follow that line precisely. So you go slow. The curves are going to take a lot longer on a slower speed, a lot further to do a smooth curve here. Since it's high speed, we can go fast, but here it's very, very slow. Surprisingly enough, it does clear the sawdust as you cut. I'm a little surprised because there's very, very little air coming out of there. I have an air pump out of a breathing machine that I was going to install in this. That'll be a follow-up video, and it'll actually probably blow too much, but I like it better than this, I think. That'll be a follow-up video later. So, as you can see, I did not use it with dust collection. There's a lot of sawdust on top of the table. There's a lot of sawdust down inside. Dust collection is going to greatly help that. You can see that some of it naturally ended up there even without dust collection. So it's going to work okay. I started the video by saying that these things are like a dime a dozen. The design is basically the same for all of them. It's got rubber in the holes, so that's a little bit of vibration dampening. I don't know that it's going to be enough. To me, it's a pretty basic tool. Not a lot of bells and whistles. I'm not sure that any of them have any bells and whistles. So for $52, I think it's worth it. I think there'll be a lot of use. I didn't see any obvious flaws other than the table not being flat. It's It's got all of these air bubbles, which are probably rust bubbles under the paint. So if you like the videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.